Welcome to Waterbug Installation Part 2. We need to get the water from the gutters into this 10-inch diameter huge hole in the top of the waterbug. This hole is not a standard size. And so I couldn't just go to my local hardware store and find a coupling that would fit beautifully into a downspout, blah, 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 blah. I had to get creative. Okay, here is the screw-in cap. It's over 10 inches, I'd say about 12 inches wide. Very nice big opening, but there's nothing there that will allow the water to go in safely. So I'm going to remove the cap completely and put a series of screens on top to keep out debris and mosquitoes. Using this lid as a template, I cut 2 square pieces from materials that I already had. On the left, you can see 1/2-inch hardware cloth, and on the right is metal screen that I removed from an old screen door from the 1950s. Again, zero cost to me, and we've got the exact right size to fit onto our opening perfectly. Okay, so here's the opening that will be covered with the screen. The water will be exposed to the air in this situation, and we should get some algae growth. However, I think that might actually be good for the plants. We're going to see how it goes this year. We can always modify if we need to next year. This is the galvanized 1/2-inch hardware cloth. It's going to go on first and act as a support structure for the finer mesh screen, which will go on top. All right, here is the metal screen. It is really sturdy and strong with a very fine mesh. It's about 70 years old and it is not even rusty. It's great. The mesh on this is small enough to keep out insects and all large particles of dirt and stones. Only the finest particles will get through this. But the water will freely pass. I've pre-drilled 6 holes at 60-degree intervals into the plastic, and I'm using washers and screws to anchor the screens firmly. Well, before we screw on the debris catcher, I want to see if you can see in here, we've got some debris and some dirt. Not a whole lot, but it's been sitting for a couple of years being waiting to be used. So I'm going to take some regular household white vinegar and a sponge mop and get in there and clean that out as good as I can. We'll take a picture when I'm done. Well, here it is. This is what it looks like an hour later. It took me quite a while because the mop had a hard time getting in and out of that opening. But I'm pleased, and it's somewhat disinfected because of the vinegar. I want to really stress the importance of Permaculture Principle 6. Use what you have on site first before going and buying anything. To this end, I do a lot of hardware saving. I take things apart, I keep screws, I keep washers, and so forth. And I have a pretty nice selection down in the wood shop of usable hardware that would cost a fortune if I was to buy it new. So here you can see that the screw that I'm using, and indeed also the washers, were used before. And here also you can see the mesh and the 1/2-inch metal grid underneath, support grid. All of this had been used before or was left over from previous jobs. So this is costing me $0 at this point. Okay, we're in the sewing studio, and last night I finished the downspout. This is made from marine grade vinyl. It's a little bit pricey. It was $25 a yard, but I only needed 1 yard. and I measured around the downspout, and it was 10 1/8. So, and of course the length from the top of the downspout to the bottom was 6 feet or 72 inches. So I was able to piece together the total length. This is the bottom part, and I attached these vinyl loops, and those will get zip tied to the screen and at the top of the water buffalo. And I attached some small grommets at the top. This is the part where the sleeve or gutter downspout will slip over the current downspout after I cut it, and then we will screw it in with the screws, and we'll show you all that. But I just wanted to let you know that this was an option. Sometimes when you need to make some funky curves and you need the ability to remove easily and change, the water buffalo will not be used in the winter, so I need the ability to remove this. And the flexibility and the warranty on this marine grade vinyl is fantastic. I have downspouts coming off my building that I've made from this too. It's very, very forgiving and malleable, and I've used 1-inch seams here for extra strength. They can be reinforced, and attachments can be made. Additional loops can be put on if I need to make it turn in different ways. So here is the downspout that we are about to attach. Always remember to measure twice or 3 times before you cut. So I've measured, and here you see I'm marking the place where I'm going to cut. I placed some cardboard behind where I'll be cutting because I do not want to slip with my saw and actually cut the siding on the building. This was my first time cutting a downspout, and I was standing on the ladder, and just a little bit tricky. Took me a little bit longer than I thought it would, but there was no harm, no foul, and we had a beautiful piece of downspout left over that we will save for another job at a different time. Here's a picture of the anchor that was used to hold the downspout. I removed it, and it was in pretty good condition, so I decided to keep it instead of buying a new one. I repositioned this anchor farther up on the building, and unfortunately, the side screws would then not fit. So I had to get creative, and I used a series of zip ties to anchor. It worked really well. Next, I slid the vinyl downspout that I had sewn onto the end of the metal downspout that I just cut off, and I made sure that there were about 6 inches of overlap. You can see my finger pointing to where the bottom of the metal was. All right, it's finished. Woo-hoo, look at that. It's attached up to the top, and all 6 feet of it have come down, and we have it zip tied through the loops onto the hardware cloth. So I'm pretty excited. Woo, woo, woo. Stay tuned for part 3, where we will install our drip hose.